Welcome to Spotlight on Connected to India. My name is Hemant Kher. In today's episode, we train the spotlight on Shadow Assassins, a film which is set to hit the big screens in Singapore on February 9th. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome the director of the film, Nilaanjan Datta, and inarguably one of the most liked and well-known faces of Indian diaspora in Singapore, KP Sandhu. Nilaanjan, KP Sandhu, welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you so much, Hemant.
Thanks, Himanshu. Thank you.
Nilaanjan, Shadow Assassins is being described as buried stories from Assam. What is the film about and why must this story be told?
So Shadow Assassin is inspired from an event that shook Assam in the late 90s. It's something that happened, it's a very dark chapter. So there was something known as secret killings. Media started calling it secret killings. So people were killed randomly by unknown assailants. And till date, nobody knows who actually those killers were. There are hints and suggestions, but nobody can say or point out a finger to anybody as such. So that's why the name Shadow Assassins. So I wanted to tell this story because, a violent pogrom like this needs to be known so that such kind of mistakes are not repeated ever again in the world. Mm-hmm. We learn from our mistakes, we learn from our history. And this is a buried story because, media at that point of time in late 90s, electronic media was quite limited. And print media did cover it, but it was not covered extensively by the mainland India, the mainstream media. So it was extensively known to people of Assam, but very few people outside of Assam knew about this. And this actually affected a lot of families. You can say almost 75% families of Assam were affected by this pogrom. So I wanted to tell this story because I come from Assam, and that was the time when I was a young student, and I had friends, I knew very close friends who were going through such tragedies, and it was somewhere deep buried inside me. And when I became a filmmaker, this was the story I always wanted to tell. So that's how Shadow Assassins came in.
Shadow Assassins is a very strong Singapore connection. Of course, there's KP, there is Anil Goswami, Rahul Kapoor of Finchbill Production, who's worked in Singapore for a very long time. So KP, why don't you speak about the Singapore connection and also how did you getting cast in the film?
It was actually quite exciting because of course this is something that I've always wanted to do. That the childhood dream of becoming an actor in the Hindi film industry, childhood dream, right? But of course because of my responsibilities here and because I was doing a lot of hosting work, I couldn't shift base to India at any point of time. Ironically, when COVID hit and it took all of our work away, that's when time opened up. And that's when I was discussing something with Anil once. And we just sat down and he was like, hey, bro, what do we do? And then I said, I don't know. Then he asked me one question. What have you always wanted to do? I said, well, since you're asking me that, I'll tell you, I've always wanted to be a film actor. Then he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. He said, because there is a project on the table. I'm like, what? We were just talking about this. And he said, there is a project. I said, okay, cool. Then I know of Rahul as well because of the connection to Z. Yeah. And then Rahul said that, man, I never knew you wanted to be an actor. I said, then I did, that typical, hum bhi actor yaar. So he said, okay, bro, you will have to audition for it. I said, that's fair. That's fair. Let me audition for it. And if I'm not suitable, I'll accept it. I'll take it like a man. And I'll try to work on my craft some other time. And so it was there, Rahul, and then I did the audition, and then Dada saw my audition. And I was fortunate to be given the thumbs up. And the rest, as they say, is history. So these three men had faith in me in different parts. And I got to do this film, and which I'm actually very proud of because, like what Dada was saying, these kind of stories need to be told. So that's how the gang got together. That's Singapore connection.
Nilaanjan, what are your observations? What did you think of KP's performance?
He has a huge screen presence. The moment he's in front of camera, he has his presence. He's flamboyant, and he knows his craft well.
Yeah.
So
thank you. Thank you.
Still remember the day, the first shot that he was supposed to give for the film was actually a very intense one because we were doing a high schedule, so I couldn't give him breathing time or to breathe into the film. So he was facing the camera for the first time and he was giving an intense scene. It was a close-up. And I still remember once that I said cut, everybody in the set, they all clapped. They all said, KP Sandhu cha gaya.
Nilanjan, you described the film as a story which must be told. But if you look at the kind of cinema which has done very well, of course, there's this stupendous record-breaking success of Pathan, or look at other films which are most of it is escapist cinema. Do you think there is an appetite amongst the audience for a film like yours, which is based on a true set of incidences and what you described as an untold story which must be told to people?
Yeah, I think Himanshu, it's a very good question. Pathan is a celebration of cinema, in that sense I would call it a celebration of mainstream cinema as we know.
Yes.
It. And it's a celebration of it. It's brilliantly done, brilliantly crafted, and SRK, the King Khan, is obviously the king.
Yeah.
But stories that I wanted to tell is something that also resonates with people. Like in the recent past, one of the films that actually did very well is Kashmir Files. And if we, of course, my film is very different from Kashmir Files. Kashmir Files has its reasons and everything else. Let's not get there. But yes, people do want to see films which have a kind of rooting and grounding, especially after the advent of OTT platforms, because people are being exposed to quality content and they also want to see quality content being told.
Yeah.
And when you say or try to make real life stories, the relatability factor becomes very stronger.
Yeah.
Because we are not only selling dreams. Yeah, we do sell dreams that people need to come out of their hardship and sometimes dream in cinema as they do. But they also need to know themselves better, the culture, history, the land that they come from, the politics, the everything, the emotions. So that comes from stories which are rooted, comes from real events or inspired by real events. So yes, there is a huge audience for that too. The only thing is that, films like that are not always supported in the mainstream zone, so we do have a struggle budgetary wise. So that again has it's a chicken and egg situation, because we have a constant, so our promotions gets a little limited, so maybe it doesn't reach to the number of people that it should otherwise.
KP, moving on to you, how did you prepare, being a theatre and a stage artist, how did you prepare yourself for the movies? Number two, do you think this film is going to give you that exposure you were looking for? And will this lead to you getting more roles in Hindi films? And is it something you are looking forward to?
So I've always been a stage person, but luckily for me, because I am a student of mass communication, and then I carried on my degree in arts management, so I have faced the camera a few times. So there wasn't so much of transitional problems. Of course, every film has got a different style of mounting and the style it's shot. Every director has his own vision. So I guess what I wanted to do from theatre to film was I just wanted to know what Dada needed from me, so I could give him the most authentic version of what he had in mind. The character of Neeraj Dekka was like. So the transition wasn't too difficult, but yes, you do read certain things of you need to understand how the camera, where it's placed, all these things, they do come into play. But in terms of the performance, it's the same, the same thing you put up on stage, with that same rawness, that same realness. You try to bring that same natural quality as much as possible in front of the camera. So I guess the transition wasn't too difficult for me, and I like to thank Dada for guiding me along the way and letting me know where I went wrong, where I went right. So that was very helpful. And of course, to answer the second question, like I said, this is the dream. I haven't just come to do one film and just fade away. So fingers are crossed. I want to do more films with Dada as well, because I know there are a few more scripts that we have casually spoken about, and I really do hope that the door opens up a little bit more for me to make my way and pave my way into the industry, because I do believe that I can contribute with whatever little talent I have. I work hard. I work really hard. And all I want to say is that I hope the door opens up, because there's a lot more from me, the actor, that I can showcase to the rest of the world via Hindi cinema.
KP, you are very talented. I'm sure you'll do very well. Nilanjan, to you and your team, all the best for Shadow Assassins. and for all your future projects. Thank you very much for speaking to Connected to India.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Himanshu.